Jonathan, welcome to Timelines. You're coming to us from Orlando, Florida.
Howdy. Thanks for having me on.
And it's really interesting. I've been watching you since you popped up, and we have a common friend, Jessica Rose, who I really like. Jessica, I've watched her evolve from really her startup to really doing well in the podcast industry as a scheduler, and that's how we met. I thought it might have been through Blab.
Yeah. I'm actually had my eye on Jessica for a while, not in a weird way, but I was working with Jamie Tardy, or she's going by Jamie Masters now.
Yeah.
But I was working with her in a coaching program, and she mentioned something about Jessica. So I bookmarked the site and was checking out what she does. And I thought, this looks really interesting, but I'm not ready yet. And then I met her in person over at Tampa Bay, the Podfest. And I saw the name. I looked up in my links, and I'm like, I know who that is. So I went and spoke to her, and I knew right when I spoke to her that we were going to work together. And so I hooked up with her. She's now hooking me up with you and other cool people. So I'm glad to be here. So thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm never sure where she actually puts me. Like I'm on the B team as you get warmed up, because I do a daily podcast, just about a daily. Interview about 4 people a week, and then we have some regular shows that we do, and all in the same RSS feed. But then we break them up into separate RSS feeds. So those listening up there, that's how we get podcasts up on iTunes, through RSS feeds. Anyway, so I got a lot of questions to ask you. You've been around for a while. You've been doing online work for about, 10, 12 years?
Yeah, about that. I started in 2008, so about 8 years doing online stuff.
You're much better branded than I am. I've got this shirt on today. Sometimes I wear my little new media shirt, but I haven't quite figured out what I want to call my business. I've got like 20 some odd websites. But what you're doing, you're making money and you're being successful. So I want to find out, how do you make money online?
How do I make money online? So I believe we're specifically talking about podcasting. So I can certainly share with you some of the ways I make money with my podcast, if that's what you're after, Bill.
Not necessarily just podcasting. You do podcasting. You have a $47 course of sorts, but anything you want to sort of bring to my attention, or the listener's attention, really, because there's a lot of ways to make money online, a lot of ways to monetize, but there's a lot of ways to spend a lot of money and lose a lot of money online too, as you know.
I've heard some stories. And
you've got Jamie Tardy as a coach, you said. How long have you had her a coach? I'm going to ask you about that, because John Lee Dumas started with her early on, and he was very successful, of course.
Yeah, he worked with her, and he gives her a lot of credit for his success. So I worked with Jamie for a limited time. I did 3 months with her, and just got a kind of a head start, because I've been working, even in my whole life as an entrepreneur, I've always chased down mentors and looked to get with the best people I can find. And Jamie was one of those people on my list. So when I got a chance to work with her, I did 3 months with her, and she helped me make some connections, helped me focus on some important stuff, and taught me some valuable lessons, which I'm grateful for.
That's good. So I've heard that she's got about a 3-month cycle for. And the people I've met who've gone through her training have all done really well, you included. So you're branded well. Tell us about your logo and your brand. How'd that come about?
By accident. The whole podcast factory thing was really an accident, because I started a podcast in 2013 with my mentor and my good friend Darren Persinger, called the Making Agents Rich Show. And that was after a bunch of lessons and a bunch of failed podcasts. We got that one right finally. And about a year into it, my buddy Ben Settle said he wanted to do a show. And I was like, dude, I will help you with that. So we did a show, and then I met some more people, some more of my mentors, people who have actually helped me out in business in many different ways. I was able to connect with them and help them with podcasting. So those guys had helped me, and I wanted to turn around and help them, and not only help them, but help all the listeners who get to hear them. So I'm bringing them out to the masses. And before I knew it, people started asking me if I could help with podcasting and what I was doing with podcasting. And about 8 months ago, I finally officially turned it into a business, because before that, it was just me chatting with my mentors, and you being a listener, or anybody out there being a listener, is that little fly on the wall we talk about. And nowadays it's actually a business and doing pretty well.
You can do a podcast, but I know you have to promote it. You must promote your podcast. You got great branding. You're wearing your shirt right now. So how do you promote your podcast?
Well, many different ways, but we're pretty much set at the Podcast Factory. The main thing that we do is when I'm partnering up with someone, they have to have an email list. In fact, there's 3 questions I ask them. Number 1 is, how big is your email list and how often are you emailing them? Number 2 is, what do you have to sell? Because you must have a product, because podcasting ain't cheap. And then number 3, which is one that I just like to hear, is, why are you podcasting? What is the message you're trying to get out? Because I want to be behind that, and I want to help you do that, and I want to believe in it. So when you answer those 3 questions, I know whether or not I can work with you. And then from there, it's promoting to the email list first, and then we're doing some other stuff. But it always starts at home with our list, with our customer base. Those are the people we start promotion with.
So digging into your podcast, do you do a video or do you strictly via Skype without a picture?
We do it a little bit differently. We're old school. I like to get good sound, so we each record on our own computers. I have a team of audio engineers who puts it all together, does all the mixing, does the slicing and dicing. And after I talk with my boys, or actually I have a couple girls on the network too, after I talk to my people, we just send it over to the audio engineer. They do the engineering, they get us a finished product, they do the transcripts, and then I'm working on some other stuff like content amplification plans, which we're testing out, which is short video snippets, clamor, and all that stuff. But for the most part, once I have recorded it, I have systems and people in place to take it from there.
A little bit different than me. We're on Blab right now. I'll get the wave come down to me. I'll post it. Your show notes are already done. I did those in about 15 minutes. So I will post it up tonight after dinner. I will edit it. I'll listen. Sometimes I listen to the entire thing and I check it all off. It takes about 30 minutes. And then I'll just post it up with a little intro, outro, things of that nature. Sort of homespun, more something that a local company could do, like anybody who has a small business or a restaurant could have a little weekly podcast. Try to keep it real simple, really cost effective. Now, I noticed you used to be or worked in real estate investment business. Are you still in that business?
Yeah, actually, the only reason I have time to to sit here and chat with you and with the listeners and stuff is because I've had all these great mentors in my life. So the guys that are on my network, the guys that I talk to, who I do shows with every single day, those guys help me in my real estate business. They help me create better systems, create better marketing, follow-ups, and all that kind of stuff, which allowed me to get my rentals filled completely up. I've got a waiting list now. So when an apartment comes open, I've already got 2 or 3 people ready to apply for it. And so I like to joke around that I have the 4-hour work week. Fact is that right now I work less than 4 hours on my real estate business, which most people won't believe, but it's systems, processes, and people. So all that stuff is dialed in, and I'm taking the same approach at the Podcast Factory. I like to just create a factory approach, systems. I like to feed the machine and have it spit out an output that satisfies me.
I can relate to that. My background is, well, I was in the Army 9 years. I did really well investing on the side in real estate. And I got out with about $300,000 in cash. I really cashed out a lot of my properties. I wish I still had them today. One was on Tybee Island, which we rehabbed. My wife and I both come from construction families or entrepreneurial families.
Yeah.
And we got out and started a design build construction company. And we built 2 small subdivisions, won some awards, wow, custom houses. Worked really hard, but you have to contract and sub out everything. It was a pretty good operation. We had 1 employee for 17 years.
Wow. That's
brokerages.
Amazing.
I stayed in the reserve, which is good and bad. It's very difficult to run a business when you get activated. And my wife did a great job, but she, by the time 2007 ran around, she wanted to really not run all the business without me. But I can understand what you said about contracting and subbing out. But with this Blab, this platform we're on now, it doesn't give maybe the highest quality of video or audio, but it gives a good quality and it sounds good on the iPhone. So that's what I care about. And the small guy and setting small businesses locally, interviewing people locally. Like I told you, we have a real estate company.
Yeah.
We moved to a different area, which she walked away from a $100,000 commission without doing anything from our last town. Wow. To live in the backside of the Sierra. So we started over here. But the podcast has really helped us by linking people to her, by putting a little commercial in locally from local podcasts to get her business.
Nice.
And I'm working down the road on a national referral company in real estate. The same concept. So I do like I enjoy podcasting. I do podcasting because I enjoy it so much. I would like to monetize a little bit down the road. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. But you've done real well. I'm really impressed with your systems and layout and I understand where you're coming from. Hey, so with that, I talked way too much. We're going to go to a break and find out more about you and talk about your success principles.
All right.
Okay, Jonathan, you talked about real estate, and I've got a little bit of background, and I know how difficult it was between 2007, 8, 9, and 10, but great opportunity. How did you survive 2008 in your business?
Wow. So 2008 is about the time that everything went down. So I joke around that I made $1 million, lost $1 million, and rebuilt it all. And 2008 was about the time where I lost everything. And it was pretty much because I came from a blue collar background. I was an electrician for 9 years out of high school. Then I jumped into real estate, and I had no real business training. So I really didn't know anything. And what I like best is that I started broke and I ended up broke. So pretty much level playing field there. And I got to start all over with new experience. But one of the things that helped me out a ton, and one of the reasons why I'm here with you today and why I'm doing my work at the Podcast Factory, is when stuff was down, when I thought that there was going to be no tomorrow, I found audiobooks and I found podcasts, and I started learning about being an entrepreneur, building a business, sales in a whole different way. What I did when I first went into the real estate business was I would buy a house and I would throw on my tools and rehab it, and then I would go sell it. So I was wearing all the hats. But as I learned more and more about systems, about marketing, about building a real business, it really helped me build the foundation for the business that I have today, which obviously is way better than that one I had back then. So I think really it was just a matter of educating myself and dusting myself off and picking myself back up. It took a couple years to do it, but I have one thing that really drives me, and it's the fact that I'm unemployable. I can't stand working for the man. And so really my hate for having a boss helped drive me through those times of despair.
I can relate to that. Being a reservist, went back and I did some really neat things in the military, and I got up fairly high in the federal service system. Because of my background, being vice mayor in city. Being in politics, by the way, is like working for yourself to some extent. Even though you're serving the people, you're really not told what to do. It's hard to explain. It's very similar, but it's actually there's a lot of power in being elected, whether it's local office, what it might be. So very similar. And I can relate to exactly what you said. I'm very similar to you. I survived. I'm sort of a survivor. I survived the hard times. We got lucky. In 2004, when I came back after being activated, we still had our businesses running. And I told my wife, now is not the time to go and build a subdivision. We had some land out in the desert, all paid for with a family investment group. And we decided not to build that. And that was a saving grace that we did that. And then in 2000, we had focused on a real estate business, making it profitable. But in 2006, I think I did something stupid. We had a real nice house that I built, but we sold it and we made a lot of money on it. And we moved into a house that triggered 3 other houses, and one was close to $1 million.
Wow.
But that house alone, we lost after putting $100,000 into it, $200,000 because the market was hit so hard. But it was a high-end house. We still have it today. I got a very low interest loan, but I can say that the stupidity of the lending institutions was amazing. Here, I paid all my bills. I'm paying a 6%, and I can't get it. Everyone else is going down to 3.5%, and I can't get it to 3.5% because they won't give me because of the reverse equity.
Wow.
And yet people are living in their houses and not making payments. So it drove me nuts. I thought it was the most stupid government. I'm not a big fan of government either. I'm almost a libertarian.
Military guy, eh?
See a lot of stupid stuff. Yeah. I spent 30 years of active reserve, and I did so much time back after 9/11. I got my military retirement, which is nice. It's not huge, but, anyway, I'm a big believer in what you did. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing wrong when you're young, buying a house. If you're working a normal job, maybe a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and fixing it up, painting it, and building another house. Because you do that over a period of years. Every couple of years, add a house. You get about 5 to 7 houses. You pay for those. You're in great shape.
Yeah.
You're in great shape because houses are going to continue to go up. They're not getting any cheaper. Unlike with inflation, they'll really rock and roll. And the key is to get those low interest loans. So I'm a really big believer. It's okay to do what you did. Go out and fix up that one house. Just make sure your cash flow is king. So you want to have a break-even cash flow.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got crazy and got carried away. That's how we ended up. I ended up losing my house. My dad lost his house and all that. Good lessons, though. All my stuff is paid for now.
Yeah, I know people that had 100 houses and lost them all.
Yeah.
So, and I like the subdivision. I know great builders who lost their fortune because they got caught with a subdivision. It's crazy though, but it was a crazy, crazy market. Hey, let's go into your success in life principles.
Okay.
The first one is be consistent.
Yeah, that's how I made it through being an electrician. That's how I made it through the downtime, and that's how I make it every day. You show up and you do the work. Be consistent every day, even if it's a little bit of progress, no progress, just keep showing up. And that's really the secret. People think that I might be an overnight success. I've been working at this for 12 years, and I can assure you that I am not an overnight success.
Okay. The next one is do the work. You sort of slipped into that. Do the work.
Yeah,
what's
they
the work?
fit together to me, actually. And doing the work is getting in and hammering it out, whatever it is you have to do. Like I'm hammering out interviews today, or I'm writing a new PDF, or I'm writing my I write emails 7 days a week. I'm writing my daily emails or recording my shows. It doesn't matter. Do the work every day, because most people will say, I don't know why I'm not successful. And it's because you're not doing the work. Okay. So do work.
So doing the work, I'm going to step back a little bit. You transition from the housing industry or electrician, which, love electricity, love running wires.
It's awesome.
Seeing how they're set up. And that's really important when I had a design build company, which I loved. We designed and built in-house, and we used all our subcontractors to review and look at the plans as they evolved. And they were better than any architect could ever do. 2-foot increments. Where's the best place to put the electric, get the best value? The quantities, because the people who know best are the people who are touching the home.
Sure.
Touching the home to how to build it. And then you bring in your real estate element who really knows what people want. And you've got a great house. The last house we designed, my wife and I designed it one evening, but we set it out to the contractor. So we love doing that. It takes a lot of cash to do that. And we don't have the cash nor the contacts. And there's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
A lot of risk running a design build construction company. I didn't realize that till later on. Safest thing is what you started to do is take one house, fix it up, hold it, get it rented. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Then when you have enough, maybe a little apartment. Nice thing to do.
Little cookie cutters.
Yep. So driving on, do the work, learn to adapt.
That's one that I'm working on now. It's my latest iteration. It's like JR 3.0, because I've been rigid most of my life, and it's just one way is the only way, and I keep banging out. And I'm not sure which book I read. I'm looking at my bookshelf over there. But anyways, what I read was, geez, I wish I remember. Anyways, the species who adapts is the species who survives. So it's not the strongest, it's not the smartest, it's the species who adapts.
Right.
And so I'm learning now to be more and more flexible. And sometimes, actually, all the time, things aren't going to go the way that you plan. And that's normal. So plan for stuff not to go the way you plan, and be adaptable and find a solution on the fly. And I'm finding that it's making my life a whole lot easier by being a little more flexible in what I'm doing, as long as it gets me to my goal.
Very good. And that's your 3 success principles, and they all work. Hey, a little bit more about you. Now, you grew up in the Northeast. Where in the Northeast you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to school in Brooklyn, and I finished middle school, and then I moved down to Florida and started high school.
So your family, Brooklyn, by the way, can be a tough town.
I'm glad my parents got me out of there. I for sure would have been in trouble.
So what brought your parents down to Florida?
Just to get me out of Brooklyn, me and my brother. They didn't want us growing up in the city. It was a little rough.
Did you ever go back to New York?
Yeah, we went. My wife and I went a couple years ago, but we didn't go to Brooklyn. We went to Midtown Manhattan, caught all the shows, ate at all the restaurants, did food tours, and got out of there.
There's a lot. I talked to a lot of people who live in New Jersey or around New York. There's still a lot of things that happen there, and a lot in the new media business, and that we're doing now, and that's changing tremendously. Hey, a couple more minutes. New media. What do you think about this new media world? Where do you think it's going? So much has changed this year.
What is new media? I mean, can you help me understand it?
Let me tell you what new media is. New media is something that's coined off of what's evolved. It's online, it's podcasting, it's web pages, it's Skype, it's communications. If you look, and it's like Netflix, it's all the new systems and delivery processes to deliver media to people. And Blab is new. Blab is new within this year. It's changing a lot. We're streaming right now. That's new media.
Yeah.
Let's say instead of the big expense, the newspapers are old media and they're dying out. So let's say somebody goes out with 3 people and they get their iPhones and they get a male and female reporter and some editor, and they go out and start covering the news in their small town. Then they put it up at 6:00 on a feed, and it's really beautiful. And they see it. Now it's the news. They can download it off RSS feed. Anybody in that town. Now they're selling marketing on it. That's new media. So the world is changing fast.
I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think any of this stuff is new. Podcasting's been around forever. Streaming has just been evolving. Video on the internet's been going on forever. And so my thought on it is everything that's old is new again. And so if you study old success principles, old marketing principles, you can apply that to anything that you do, whether new media, newer media, newest media, it doesn't matter. There's just psychology behind the way people interact, and you have to be aware of that.
I agree that nothing really changes. Human nature is the same, but newspapers are definitely dying. And if you've been a journalist in newspapers 20 years ago, you're in a dying business. You need to get out. And what new media is, again, if you look at ABC and CBS, they just launched apps in the last 2 weeks that are tremendous. They have 24-hour streaming and news now. That's what new media is. CNN is not doing it right. CNN is actually charging, and these other companies are taking advantage. ABC, CBS, they were testing out 2 years ago. So that's what new media is. It's the streaming media. It's the live coverage. It's Skype. It's taking someone's phone and getting information off of it. It's the new media. Old media is definitely newspapers, and it's still around. It still works. And micro newspapers are actually doing okay, but they're still very expensive to produce. New media is relatively inexpensive to produce overall, but it still takes talent. So that's what new media is. And it's evolved. Just like netcasting and podcasting. Actually, in 2008, there was a study in North Carolina, which is looked at, which defines what new media is somewhat, and it talks about netcasting. And then underneath netcasting, you've got webcasting and podcasting as one of the elements. So I've done a lot of research. I ran research teams for the military, PhDs. And so I started getting into it, watching it, oral histories, things of that nature. That's what some of new media is. Hey, let's take a break, and we're going to come back to your commercial and how the listener can get in contact with you. And one last question.
All right. Another one coming up soon. All right. We're good.
Okay, coming back off the break. Hopefully I recorded that last session. I was looking up. I think I did. Unless I hit it. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Damn new media.
Well, to some extent, I'll tell you what, I really should start recording and just leave it on because I can cut it so easy. But if I want to talk off record, I got to turn it off. But it's better really to leave it on when you're doing a show because I have missed little bits and pieces. And if we do, I'll just put some filler in and I'll go over some of your success and life principles, which were be consistent, do the work, and learn to adapt. Because we'll learn to adapt. We'll make something good. And I'm going to this will be up tonight, and I'll put a little commentary. You know, we did have a terrorist attack in Belgium today.
Yeah, we heard that on NPR this morning.
That's close to me. So today is the March 22nd. We're doing this in the morning at 9:00 Pacific. So our hearts go out there. So we'll have some relevant information on this podcast on the front and back side. But driving on, how can the listener get a hold of you?
Well, what I have done here is, and we talked about it a little bit, I work a lot in podcasting. So what I want to share with your listeners, the Timelines of Success listeners, is I put together my top 10, I popped my mic there, top 10 podcast recipes. And so I was struggling with the idea of writing a book. And then I realized, why don't I just write some recipes for podcasting, the stuff that has helped me launch shows, make money, build my brand. And I put them all together, and I'm sharing the top 10 with the Timelines listeners. And all you have to do is go to thepodcastfactory.com/timelines. And when you get there, you can opt in, grab the report, and it's going to be a PDF, which I'm just finishing up the editing on, and an audio. So you could either listen to it or you can read it, whatever you prefer.
Very good. I noticed you've got a course called Podcasting 101.
Yeah.
I've got the domain podcasting101.com.
There you go. You can affiliate for me.
I can point that anywhere. I own that domain. I own a lot of domains. Smart domain registry. Yeah. I try to get some others, but podcasting is a good domain to have. Very good. Sure. And you've got a beautiful site. I really recommend people go to look at that site. It's really evolved, and there's a lot to it. It's a very expensive site too, and you're rebuilding it, right?
I'm rebuilding it from the ground up. I'm not crazy about it, so I do appreciate the compliments, but there's some things as far as functionality, like in the front, I have like 12 shows that I want to feature, and there's only like 4 or 5 of them there. And I want better integration with all my menus and everything. So I'm having it rebuilt from the ground up.
Yeah, you know how expensive that is and how much work it takes and the skill sets. It's huge.
I've hired it out, and I've already paid for it.
It's huge. One thing I've seen, though, be cautious. I've seen a lot of smaller business people around Reno where I am, which isn't the highest tech area, and don't understand things. They lose their domains. They get them taken over, and they don't own their domain. So you got to make sure you own your domains. And there's some common things, common things you need to know and control. But other than that, you have to have trust too in those who you hire and work around you. So one last question I'm going to ask you. Sometimes I ask about food, but I ask you, how do you select somebody? How do you pick who's going to be on your team, who you're going to contract to?
Okay, so let me make sure I'm thinking the right way. So the people who I hire as engineers and transcribers and all that kind of stuff?
Right. Your engineers, how do you, for example, let's use your website. How did you select who was going to rebuild your website? You have to trust them tremendously, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah, and well, it's relative. I think it's a value for what I'm getting, but I already know the guy, known him for years. He was referred to me. He's actually done another site for me, and he's done sites for some of my close friends. So he's already a proven entity. And not only that, I've worked with him on some stuff on another site that we worked together on. And I've never, ever worked with anybody that's so on it like he is. And so I already knew he was the guy I was going to when it was time to rebuild my site.
So you had experience. You built up little bits and pieces. You had referrals. By the way, the website is one of the foundations of new media. The website, it's one of the older
websites are old. I don't call any of this stuff. Maybe
websites are, it's all irrelevant. You know, TV is old. TV was established after World War II, and radio is established in the 20s. And that's part of the old media that sort of fits. And as it comes, you're going to see TV go away. You're going to see FM go away. FM radio will be gone soon, because are you going to use those channels to broadcast? They're on lease, first of all, so they're going to lose their leases. And there's companies like AT&T, which spent $9.1 billion to buy up some of those licenses.
Wow. Amazing.
Hey, one last question. Have you gone to did you go to the National, what is MNX, New Media Exposition in Las Vegas? See, there's new media right there.
Yeah, I'm weird because really my whole thing in life is I want to spend time with my family. And so I don't really get to a lot of conferences. Like, this is it. I'm
no, I understand. Totally.
I'm kind of a troll. I just want to stay at home and do what I do. But I know I should get out to more of those, but I just don't do it.
I live in Reno, Nevada, which is a little drive for wherever we go. And sometimes we have stuff here, but I totally understand. And sometimes you can't do the work if you're out traveling and going, but you have some events that happen in Orlando. I think they had Podcasters Movement there recently.
They had that. Yeah. And like I said, Podfest was only 2 hours away, and I was in your backyard. This is a Heavenly hat. I skied or I was snowboarding Heavenly like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? We get great snow. Yeah. Snow now. I just snowed last night. We had an inch of snow outside. I'm about 5,000 feet in a place called Mayberry McCullen Ranch, and just up the hill, up Reno. It's a great place to live. But the problem is we're a tourist area, and we're kind of small, but a lot of people come in and out. Great airport, of course.
Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan, hold on a second. I want you to come on the backside. And for our listeners, which we're a little thin today, we're going to play around and show you some stuff. You see that share the last 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Go ahead and hit that. Just write something up there, and we'll finish up the podcast.
All right.
So what that does, it sends out the last 30 seconds clip onto the Twitter, which is kind of nice. What do you think of the social media being Twitter and all these? That's part of new media too, is like Twitter and the social media.
God, I've been on Twitter since 2008 or 2009. It doesn't feel new to me.
But still, that's relatively new as it evolved. Well, Twitter took off early on, and Facebook.
Yeah.
What's your favorite media?
Email.
Yeah, email still works, doesn't it? You have to have an email list. How long?
I'm number one, email.
I was going to ask you, use Aweber for your email, don't you?
Yeah, that's it.
Biggest mistake I made was going with Infusionsoft.
Confusionsoft, as they call it.
Biggest mistake. You've got to be ready to spend that's where you need a specialist. And it took me a lot of time. The training they initially gave me was terrible. But that was, when I look back, I should ask you, what are some of the mistakes you made? That was one of my mistakes in Fusionsoft. I still have it. They dropped me down to $99 a month, which is ridiculous. And I still use it somewhat. I know it somewhat, but there's better tools out there now. Are you going to stick with Aweber?
I've been with Aweber since '08. I've tried other stuff, and I'm not. I mean, I've come back to Aweber every time.
That's smart. See, there you caught something. I wish I'd stuck with Aweber. There's some other products out there that look pretty nice now.
I've tried the nice products and the flashy products, and my deliverability goes down. My opens go down. I email 7 days a week, and email is the lifeblood of my business, and I'm not willing to keep trying other crap, and because I make all my sales in email. So if I'm not emailing and I'm not making sales, I'm not eating.
Mm-hmm. I know, I understand. So that's interesting. No, Aweber, that you've stuck with them. And that's, I think, a good move too. And once you learn something too, now you probably do a lot of that yourself without contracting out a lot of work, right? You do some.
Well, I write my own daily emails every Monday. Actually, I slacked off this Monday and only wrote 5. I have to write 2 more for the week, but I write all that stuff. But anything where I'm building campaigns and stuff like that, I'll just put everything in a text file and have my assistant load it all up for me.
Do you do all your campaigns in Aweber?
I do all my emailing in Aweber.
So for example, your websites, you've got, I think you got a great website, especially for your forms and your landing. I mean, everywhere I go, there's some place to sign up.
Well, that is necessary if you want to build an email list.
That's my weak point. Yeah. And are you giving away something? Do you use any other tools you like?
Well, on the website right now, I mean, my autoresponder is Aweber, and then I've been using Thrive themes for some of the stuff, but it integrates with Aweber. But for the most part, all my opt-ins happen on the website. I mean, I've used, in fact, like the URL I gave you for your listeners, that goes through ClickFunnels, but that will still put people into my Aweber account.
ClickFunnels, I don't know ClickFunnels well.
That's okay. You don't need to. It's overrated.
I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't really played with it. Probably
overrated.
You ever gone to a PodCamp? Probably not.
No, I remember hearing about them. PodCamps. That's been around probably longer than any other one of those conferences.
How about WordCamp?
Yeah, that's an old one too. I really don't go to a lot of conferences.
They're everywhere. I mean, they're in your backyard in Orlando. Where you are in Orlando, you got a lot of conferences. Orlando has a really good one. Have you looked at Learning Management Systems, LMS?
I don't. What is it?
LMS. Learning Management. It's the term that they use in this new media business. Learning Management Systems, LMS. It's that's another part of the new media evolution, is the learning online. And we're really a slow transition, but it's kids and processes and steps. And there's a lot of it out there now. I mean, it's been around for a while, but it takes time for it to catch on. There's something called the S curve. So the first 10%, you break into thirds. So the first third is about 10% adopt. Whatever that time is, let's say it's a year, it means that the next 80% is going to go very fast and it's going to level off.
Right.
Well, podcasting has been very slow. I mean, it's at a point where how far is it going to go? And this phone helped a lot, but I think who knows? What do you see the future? Where are you going in your future?
I'm going to where you said not to go. I've started a paid print newsletter, which people pay me for. Yeah. They sign up and it gets delivered to their house at the beginning of every month. And
is it actually printed? Is you're mailing it?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's still good because we still do some direct mail in real estate.
Yeah.
And it's actually working. You get a newsletter. What's it on?
It's called Podcast Mogul. So it's on podcasting as a business.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
That's why I said I had to disagree with you. I think printed word, getting something delivered to your mailbox, there's nothing more powerful.
I've interviewed a few people this year that been very successful at micro newspapers.
Yeah, similar concept, right? Community
micro newspaper, like with a business district, things of that nature, and publish it. Those do well. Those things are still doing okay. And a newsletter, that's really, I don't know if anybody I've talked to has talked about a newsletter. I should have talked about that during the show.
Podcast Mogul.
Wow. And what else are you going to do other than, is it just going to be podcasting?
Yeah, I mean, that's, if you know enough about anything, you can turn it into podcasting. So the same way that I write 7 emails a week to my podcast factory list, I have already 6 newsletters pre-written. and I'll be building more as we go out. But it's just podcasting and business, and there's so many little nuances of it that you can turn into a newsletter. They're only 10 pages long, and so it's real easy to fill up 10 pages.
So who needs a podcast these days?
Most people don't need a podcast, and in fact,
Right.
That's one of my calling cards. And people get upset by that because I do all my sales for the white label, use my podcast factory thing by phone. So I'm a guy, like I told you, I'm old school.
I do too. I believe in the phone. Now I left you. I asked for your phone number there. I still call people all the time.
I got your message and I checked the link. That's how I ended up on here.
Yeah, it works pretty well too. It does the time and all that. Do you use the scheduling software?
Yeah, actually, I just renewed. I've been using Time Trade for years. $30 for the year.
That's good. I use Vasita, and it worked great, but it's too expensive.
It is expensive
For what you get, and it's a SaaS, software as a service. There's another one, software as a service. That's like the new media backbone, SaaS. You heard of SaaS?
Yeah, I sold software as a service for the last couple of years when I was still doing real estate training.
SaaS is still relatively new. Were you you're training people in real estate for purchasing and buying?
Yeah, no, not purchasing and buying. Real estate agents. I did many years in real estate training. In fact, I had one of the biggest real estate referral groups on Facebook. When I shut it down last year, we had something like 75 or 77,000 fans.
So maybe I heard of you from the real estate side. So who are some of the top gurus you like to follow in real estate?
I don't follow any gurus in real estate, but I do like Josh Shanley, who is one of my clients. So he's a pretty smart guy, and he used to be in Reticulous, and then he's doing his own thing now, Client Alchemist. Other than that, I'm friends with Michael Mayer, who did the 7 Levels of Communication book. I think he's a smart guy, and he seems cheesy, but he really believes it. And so I've been with him before and talked with him, and he's the real deal. And I don't know who else. Darren Persinger was my biggest guru, who was part of the Making Agents Rich show and Productivity Junkies, but that's about it, really.
The real estate industry is really, really unique. We had an in-house school. I don't know how you got a few more minutes left. It's 9:46 right now in Pacific.
Yeah,
time.
I got a couple minutes before I got to be there 10 minutes early. So
let's talk real estate. We do a real estate show
on
Thursdays, and then on you'd be really interesting on our tech show, believe it or not, on Saturday morning. It's one of our biggest shows.
Newsletters,
no,
phone sales.
See, I tell these tech guys, I'm around the programmers, developers, these high-end folks. We actually do a developer came to me, and one thing I find in common with the high-end developers and all this, they're terrible at sales and marketing.
Yeah, I bet.
They're terrible at sales and marketing. It's the Steve Jobs Wozniak concept.
Right.
Steve Jobs was a sales guy, and Wozniak was the brain.
Yeah,
coder. And he wanted to give everything away, and he didn't want to market anything. So yeah, you'd be really interesting to talk to. How long did you do this real estate training?
I launched the real estate referral group in 2008, and I just shut it down just December. So about 7 years.
That was a tough time to launch a real estate business because realtors were dying on the vine.
It was fun. I will tell you that.
But now is a good time, I think, to be in the business with training real estate agents.
Yeah, my vision's much bigger, and I was only training this small group of people, and my vision really now is to impact the world's entrepreneurs. And so that's all kinds of people solving problems in the world rather than somebody just trying to sell a house. Those people real estate agents are passionate about what they do, but an entrepreneur solving a bigger problem is more passionate, and that's who I'm aiming to help nowadays.
That is really neat. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, and we'll finish up. John Lee Dumas, you have to watch him and studied him. Jamie Tardy, of course, you've had Jamie Tardy, and there's a connection there. What do you think of John Lee Dumas? He's doing sort of what you want to do, it sounds like. He is getting his avatar, of course, is the millennium. But it really is broader than that. A lot of entrepreneurs follow him. They want to see what he did.
Yeah, I don't know that he's doing the same thing I'm doing. He's building a community, and he is actually, I don't know if you're a member of his community, but it's a thriving community. And so he is definitely doing some big things, and he's definitely done a lot for podcasting, getting people interested in it. He's impacting the world by what he's doing. And you know what? It is sort of similar now I think about it, because he's helping people do their podcast shows and get that going. So yeah, I think it is kind of similar, and I actually like what he does. I'm a member of his community. I bought his products, and I admire him. I admire anybody that makes it. I like to admire them, study them. Success leaves clues, so I figure out what resonates with me, and I'm doing what I do, and instead of interviewing people, which is one way to do it, I prefer to just go ahead and JV with someone and have them come back regularly so that I can get all the knowledge out of them.
That's a good way to do it too, because you can build on their strengths too. Yeah. Hey, on John Lee Dumas's, I remember when he was $200. I came back from Afghanistan in December 7th, 2012. He'd already been podcasting for a couple of months. I spent about 2 months watching YouTube, and I stumbled into John Lee Dumas. I think we were both military officers, and we're both in combat. I think we're already on LinkedIn each other. We'd been linked in before he started the show. But I remember when he monetized, I remember when he started Podcaster's Paradise, it was $197. In retrospect, I would have bought it in a heartbeat. Yeah. And watched him grow. And I know the first person he showed his first 6 training slides to, training little clicks. He started out with 6 clicks. Yeah. And I watched him, and actually was working with Dave Jackson a little bit on the side because I wanted to learn the podcast, and I learned through Dave Jackson. But John Lee Dumas has really put out a good model, passionate. I think his avatar is a lot broader than what he says it is, because I think you're a little older in the millennium. I am. I didn't know I bought I bought one of his products, a couple of them, but not Podcaster's Paradise. So how long have you been in Podcaster's Paradise?
Oh, I don't know, maybe a year or two.
Okay.
I paid $1,300 to get in there, so it wasn't the 200 days.
You didn't get one of his, wasn't he discounting that off?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I did get it. Maybe
I did. You do through a webinar?
I don't even remember. I just was waiting till I had the money and then bought it. I was like, all right, I'm going to buy it now.
And I'm sure you've done well in that group. You learned a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't know. I still have to figure out in the podcasting community. There's a lot, and I think he probably knows as much as most people. Have you looked at Libsyn? Do you use Libsyn for?
Yeah.
Rob Welch. Have you talked to Rob Welch?
No.
Okay, I've talked to him a few times. He's like the master. He used to do a lot of politics. Hey, I'll let you go. I know you got to get going.
Yeah, I got another call.
On. You might want to go sometime. You might going to consider coming on. I'm trying to change the format of WP Tonic. It's a show it's produced by Jonathan Denwood, but I do the backside and I work on it. I'm a co-host, and it's all about websites and WordPress. But I'm trying to get in to bring somebody who uses WordPress for their backbone of their business once a month. And to come on to explain how they use it and what they see are the downfalls from working with the programmers and the systems and the process and what works for them. So maybe down the road, we'll get you on that show. It's Saturday morning live, by the way, at 9:00 Pacific, if you want to tune in this platform.
Super. All right. Thanks, Bill. Thanks. I got to run.
I'm going to go ahead and shut you off. But wait, before I shut you off, I'm going to do one thing. I normally make you a host earlier on. And I don't make you host till you start, so you don't mess up the show before we go as a guest, because you can break the link. But you're a host right now. That means you're going to get some of the better information from this podcast. We'll come to you directly like a host. Now I'm going to shut this down. It's actually from this blab. Okay, take care. That's interesting. So another day. Hopefully I did enough filler there at the end in case I didn't put that second period on, and I can go back and fill it up. We'll edit tonight, and it will be up tonight. Interesting podcast. And it's Jonathan actually came on early and talked to me about 2 weeks ago when he first signed up on the show. So take care, and see you guys out there. Tomorrow we'll be up at 4:00 Pacific, 4:00 West Coast time, which is 7:00 Eastern on Blab, recording. What is tomorrow anyway? By the way, you can find out the schedule. I could just bring up my own schedule and look at it. You can find out tomorrow is Wednesday, so it'll be 4:00 Pacific. I'll be interviewing Maya Good, and see you then if you want to interact and come online. Take care.